Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. We are going to be starting the third event of our Spring Made in HFA Alumni Panel and Career Workshop series. My name is Kylie Sharp, and I work as an academic advisor in the College of Humanities and Fine Arts at Chico State, and I'm going to be serving as our event moderator today. So today's panel is themed performers and practitioners, and this panel features 3 alumni from our college who have gone on to pursue careers in theater, music, and the arts. First up, we have Brianna Warren. Brianna, better known as Bree, graduated from Chico State in 2017 with a BA in art history and a minor in ethics, justice, and policy studies. Since then, Bree has served as the conservation studio technician for the Manil Drawing Institute in Houston, Texas, the first museum facility in the country to be wholly dedicated to the care, research, and display of drawn artworks. She is an active member of the American Institute for Conservation, national professional organization. Bree is currently serving as AIC's Emerging Conservation Professional Network Regional Liaison for the Houston, Texas area, as well as a technical editor for the Book and Paper Group's Wiki. Welcome, Bree. Bree, can you tell everyone where you are joining us from today?
I am in Houston, Texas right now.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Our next panelist for the day is Lacy Stevens. Lacy graduated from Chico State in 2018 with a degree in musical theater and a minor in marketing. During her time at Chico State, Lacy starred in shows such as How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying and Reefer Madness. After graduation, she returned home to Los Angeles County to pursue film and theater. 1 year later, she booked a role as an actress at Universal Studios Japan, where she lived and worked in Osaka for 12 months. Welcome, Lacy.
Hi.
Can you tell everyone where you are joining us from today?
I'm still in Osaka, Japan. I live here now.
Thank you for getting up very early this morning on your time zone to join us.
You're welcome. Happy to be here.
Our third and final panelist of the day is Yvonne Paredes. Yvonne, also known as Johnny Walls, graduated from Chico State in 2008 after completing a degree in music industry and recording. He went on to start his own music production company, JWP08, and later launched his music career, recently embarking on his 3rd official release. Walls has held a myriad of other positions in the entertainment arena over the years, including working in production, backline tech, touring nationally as a professional musician, providing consulting for various music venues and startups, writing STEAM curriculum for music technology, promoting well-known music venues in Los Angeles, coordinating and hosting various festivals, and currently runs his own recording teaching studio in San Jose. Welcome, Yvonne. Can you tell everybody where you are joining us from today?
San Jose, California.
Very nice. So we are literally all over the globe for this alumni panel today. And I can't tell you how much we all appreciate your cooperation and collaboration in bringing information to our students. As you all know, as graduates of the institution, life after college can seem rather daunting when you're a senior or junior approaching graduation. And so we are running this series to give our students just a brief glimpse into what could be out there career-wise. So what we're going to do for the panel today is we're going to have roughly 45 minutes of some structured questions with our panelists, and we'll just sort of go around in a group in the same order as our introductions. And then for those of you in the audience, as you come up with questions, go ahead and write those down or keep a mental note of them. And in the last 10 to 15 minutes of the session today, we'll go ahead and open up the chat and you can begin asking questions directly to our panelists. Is everybody ready to get going? All right, we are going to go ahead and start with Bree. Bree, can you please describe for us the work you are currently or most recently engaged in and what a typical workday looks like for you?
So I'm a conservation studio technician and I work in a paper lab within a museum. And I think the easiest way to explain what an art conservator does is through the analogy of doctors. We are art doctors. We assess what art needs, we care for it, we treat it even. And so I assist a paper conservator, and as a technician, I'm sort of like the nurse. So if she needs anything, I'll step in, I'll help. Certain things I'll do under her supervision. And the goal is that as we take care of the art, it will last for generations to come so that everyone can enjoy it. My typical day is very project-based. It changes all the time. And a really big part of that is exhibitions. And so I monitor the conditions that the artworks are in, the way that they come into the museum and go up on the walls. I make sure that that condition is the way that they come off of the walls, that no one sneezed, poked, written on any of the artworks. And then I also do research on how artworks are made. I use microscopes and spectrophotometers and microfade testers and a lot of scientific instruments to assess what things are made out of and how they were made and what can be told from those artifacts within the object. And so we provide that information to our curators to enrich the information that goes out to the public about artworks that are viewable. And sometimes even ones that are too fragile to go on view as well. And then, as I mentioned, treatment. So some artworks have, been poked, written on, etc. And they need a little bit of love so that they don't fall apart over time. And so I have made new spines for books. I have reattached branches that were falling apart. And I've even had a fun day collaborating with our objects conservators involving bowling alley wax and a blowtorch. So as I mentioned, my days have a lot of variety and I think it's really fun. And everything that we do is guided by a code of ethics. And, it's a lot of good variety and focus on science intervening with art history, and technical art studies.
Thank you, Bree. That was a wonderful analogy to, the doctor-nurse comparison to the work that you do. And it sounds like a lot of your day is very technical and very specific. Although I do have to say, I really appreciate the variety that it sounds like you get to experience in your day. All right, we are going to shift over to Lacey. Lacey, can you please tell us about your current or most recent line of work and what a typical work day in that industry or field would look like?
Yeah, so I was most recently an actor at Universal Studios Japan, and an actor here in Japan, like a theme park, is a lot different than a theme park in the States. In the States, it's a lot more take photo, sign autograph, hug, bye. Here, it's a lot more of creating an experience, creating a world. My job is basically an improv artist to welcome people into the park and make them feel like they are walking down Hollywood Boulevard, creating stories, interacting, bringing people into a world that I'm creating. And because of COVID, that did change. I got socially distanced up on a balcony. So it was an interesting challenge. But my typical day would just be like, wake up, since I'm in Japan, reply to emails and texts and calls because I've been asleep for half the day back in the States. In Japan, you take the train or you can take a ferry to work. Then I'll do my makeup and they have a wig team that'll come, and the wig team will come like every hour to check up on you and fix your hair. I'm responsible for my own makeup and then get into costume, and I do about 5 shows in a day, and the shows range from 15 minutes to 30 minutes, and you just go out and improv, interact. Because of, like I said, COVID, I'm up on a balcony. It's a much different challenge to interact with people when you are 15 feet above them and doing it for the most part without using any words. But it's just a really fun experience to be able to make memories for people. Like, one of my favorite things is to make people smile. So like finding ways to do that in this new role. And then usually after, it's like also going to the gym because I have to make sure that I'm in good physical shape. That's also part of my job. But it's every day is different. Well, yes, going into the job every day is the same, but every show is different. And I do 5 shows a day, every day for a year. But yeah, it's a really interesting, challenging job, but it's so fun.
Thank you, Lacey. That sounds like just a single day in that role would be quite an experience. And imagine that you gained quite a bit over a whole year of doing that. Thank you so much for sharing. Yvonne, we're going to go ahead and move over to you. Can you please tell us a little bit about the work that you're currently engaged in and what your average or typical workday would look like?
Sure. So I'm completely independent. So I own my own business. I'm self-employed. Uh, my my workday starts around 12 p.m. And I start, basically it's my office hour from 12 to 4, office hour. Emails, um, maybe a social media post, because I promote a lot online. I mean, not heavily, but just to my market, to my you know my groups of people that I work with. But I basically I return email, and I'm also looking for work, right? Because I have other producers, other artists, other people you meet online, that luckily there's work. Because I basically, I'm an artist, producer, and instructor. That's what I do here. So I'm a creative being, but from 12 to 4, it's my office work. You know what I mean? My office work, my sales time. You know what I mean? Just to follow up on clients, and try to be there in the present, and try to generate some income. Right? It's the whole sales and the whole aspect of being self-employed and getting out there and looking for work. But I basically seamlessly juggle all three, right? So at the beginning, now the second part of my day is I'm a music teacher. So I deal with anybody. I don't deal with super little kids anymore. I mean, I have some. I don't. I'm open. Especially right now with this pandemic. I've that's what saved my butt. I was like the teaching and working with other artists, other producers that I teach older people as well. So from 4 to about 7, I teach. I'm consulting, whatever it is. I'm doing what we're doing right now. Then I take a break. I do some exercise. I spend time with my kids, do what I have to do, and then I come back to work between 9 and 12 a.m. So I don't always do that, but that and now 9 to 12 a.m. That's creative, right? This is singer songwriter. This is collaborations with artists that I'm not charging. You know what I mean? People that are helping me push the boundaries. People that are like soothing my soul, or things. I do things that soothe my soul. Like pick getting the guitar, or practicing piano. That thing. I have to keep that fire going. It's the creative side of it. You know planning, and I do perform and this and that. I'm not a big huge artist, but I I travel up and down the coast. I perform at colleges. I do seminars. I write curriculum, and I'll do like certain like webinars and stuff like that. So that's been working for me too. So sometimes at that creative space, I sometimes I have to write some curriculum, either for a presentation that I'm doing, or if I'm working with some sort of nonprofit, or a charter school. Like I pick up work like that. I'm blessed to say that when this pandemic hit, like, don't get me wrong, like, I bugged out, and everybody's like, I'm a very social person. I'm a musician. I like to play live. You know what I mean? That's my thing. But I knew that it was also an opportunity, and luckily my mental health has been good, and I've been keeping going, and just working with what I got, being creative, being a music teacher, and also producing music. Why? Because, you guys asked me, is that your studio? I was like, yeah, I turned my garage into a studio. I do work with other studios. I go to bigger studios here and there. but I could do a lot from here, and that's been working for me. So in a nutshell, that's my day.
Thank you so much for sharing. It sounds like your creativity has definitely lent itself to some flexibility in your day to day and just making sure that you're staying busy and staying productive.
Oh, and then on top of that, I have 2 kids, so I have to balance that. So that to be, I don't just go to sleep and wake up at 12. I wake up a lot earlier. You know what I mean? And I grind, because that's a whole nother job right there. And I homeschool my little son and do my thing and do exercise with him. But anyway, in a nutshell, that's it.
So yeah, you've got definitely a handful of jobs going simultaneously there.
Yeah.
Well, now that we've heard a little bit about where you all are career-wise and kind of what your average day looks like, I would love for you to chat a bit about how you got to where you are. So circling back to Bree, can you please tell us how you found yourself on the path to your current career? Was this something you always imagined for yourself or something that you stumbled upon?
So originally, I thought I was going to be an organizational psychologist who basically takes an economic approach to helping businesses make their workers happy. That definitely didn't happen. I went to college, tried a little bit of everything, and fell in love with art history. And then being ridiculously obsessed with having a practical focus on things, I was like, okay, what am I going to do with this? And so I Googled what to do with an art history degree. And I was like, oh, museums, perfect. I love it. Always love those things. Let's try that. So when I transferred to Chico, I plugged into museum everything. And I do mean everything. Every single museum that's within a 1-block radius on or near the Chico campus, I was involved with at some point. So I worked at the University Art Gallery. I volunteered at the Chico Museum. I interned at the Janet Turner Print Museum. I set up a show when I was leading the Art History Collective Club in the BMU. I signed up for classes through the anthropology department because even though I was studying art history, the museum classes were in anthropology. And I was like, I need to figure out what in museums I'm interested in. So I started taking exhibition design, admin, conservation. And when I learned about conservation, I went up to the instructor and I was like, you need to tell me more about this. He said one whole sentence, and this just sounds really cool. And that led to an office hours appointment where, we talked about it more. And at the end of it, she said, okay, you need to go to this professional organization, go to their meeting. They host it once a year. Go figure out if this is really for you, because it's not an easy field to get into or stay in. You need to go make sure this is right. And I was like, okay. So I saved up my money, went to Montreal during finals week, was writing 3 papers in Canada while trying to absorb information. And I'm not an outgoing person, and I didn't know a single person there. And it was so exhausting. And it was so worth it. At the end of that week, I was like, this was the best thing I could have done. And that's sort of the story. I met a bunch of people at that conference. I went back the next year, re-met someone that I had met the year before, reintroduced myself, and she is now my supervisor. She told me to apply when I reintroduced myself. And during my final semester, I ended up interviewing and got the position here.
That's, I would say, a great story to talk about how you got to where you are, because it touches on so many elements that I think our students are dealing with today, from feeling like they have one idea of what they're doing and realizing that's not for them and a shift needs to occur. I love that you talked about, discussing opportunities with your professors in office hours and how that opened your eyes. The networking piece, I think, is so critical for so many of our students. So it's nice to hear that all of those different elements came together to get you to where you are today. All right, Lacey, we're going to go ahead and turn attention to you. Can you tell us a little bit about how you found yourself on your current path? Was this what you always envisioned for yourself, or was this kind of something that you stumbled upon in life?
I'd always wanted to be an actor. I saw my first piece of theater when I was 3.5 years old. I still remember it. I remember being little, looking at the stage saying, I want to be on that stage. So being in the arts was always very intentional for me, but where I ended up still shocks me. I did theater all throughout my grade school days, and then I went to college, obviously very intentionally performing musical theater. And when I graduated, I moved back to Los Angeles because I'm lucky enough to be from the area. And I was just kind of throwing darts anywhere I could. I was applying for commercial agencies and modeling agencies and film and theater and anything I could like get my foot in the door, just trying to see what would land, what would stick, what I could do. Because there's just so many options when it comes to being an actor. Sometimes it's a little overwhelming. And so I was on backstage.com, which is like the best place to find work if you don't have an agent. And I saw this audition for Universal Studios Japan. And I had auditioned for Disneyland a couple times, but it never really crossed my mind to do theme park work internationally. And I just saw that they were looking for a character I would fit. And I'm like, okay, I'll apply for it. And I got an audition slot. And even the night before the audition, I almost skipped it. I didn't want to have to drive 45 minutes to this audition, just be told no. And at the end of the day, it's like, no, I already signed up. They have my headshot, they have my resume. I'll just go see what happens. And it's the best audition I've ever had. Like, I've usually you can walk out having a feel for how things are. And I walked out like, I think I booked that. Trying not to be overconfident, but I'm pretty sure I booked it. I was too overconfident because I forgot to send my passport information to the casting team like they asked me. So a month later, they're like, hey, are you still interested? And I'm like, yes, here we go. Take my passport information. But I never would have imagined myself in Japan. I had never traveled internationally before this. I had been in Canada for a couple hours. I honestly never really looked for acting work outside of Los Angeles or really New York. And I think that's something that this job especially has widened my view to how many acting jobs there are outside of the like Hollywood, New York. There's so many other opportunities. And so I'm staying in Japan for a couple months, trying to see what else I can find work-wise as a foreigner. But yeah, I never would have imagined myself working internationally at a theme park, but it's been the best job I've ever had.
That's wonderful to hear. And I have to say that I really appreciate that you pursued so many different opportunities in that time when you were looking for work. I like to talk to my students a little bit about what we call planned happenstance, that sometimes it's luck, but sometimes you have to put yourself out there for the luck to find you. So I love the way that panned out and broadened your horizons, and I'm sure is going to lead to you finding more diverse opportunities in the future. Yvonne, can you talk to us a little bit about how you found yourself where you are today? I cannot hear you right now. Is anyone else able to hear him?
Check 1 2. Hold on.
There you go. We can hear you now.
Yeah. So Lacey was talking about LA, so it reminded me, of the work that I did down there. When I graduated from Chico, I spent about 7 years in LA. So it's been a labor of love. It's been like a dream that I thought it was a dream that I didn't think was practical because it's art, is like becoming a reality. And it's not, oh, I have 75,000 followers on Instagram. No. I'm talking about like I'm putting food on the table. I'm working. You know what I mean? Like I'm paying my bills. I live in San Jose. It's hella expensive here. You know what I mean? Like, so basically it's a long answer, but I'm here because I put in all that networking work that you need to put in. And what it was is not only did I build myself up in at Chico. So when I went to Chico, I really excelled in the things that I wanted to excel. And I put in the work put in the work, and I was very successful. I became a big fish in a small pond. So when I moved to LA, I have family there off and on. I lived down there. I moved to LA. I did everything. I went to castings. I was on shows. I wasn't even an actor, and I was like picking up acting gigs, I did all that, but that was all for the networking. So it was for the networking. I was promoting shows in Hollywood and different venues, playing at the House of Blues somehow because I knew a Chico State student that's managing this big artist, and I'm there, I'm backstage, I'm hanging out, boom, 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 all those relationships that I made. Now I can sit back and have a family, work from home and have rapport, build rapport with people, because I guess I knew that at the end of the day, I was gonna be an artist. Like art, you gotta hustle with art. It's not. They're not gonna give it to you unless you, Brianna. I give it up to you. You seem like exactly. Like you knew, and you were like, you know what, this is where I need to go. It's not that it's easy for you. What I'm saying, like, I'm not like that. Like, what I do is I prepare myself in a few different things. I'm sure you do the same thing. I can't speak for you, but what I'm saying is sometimes I'm a little of an artist when it comes to like doing something. I have a plan A, B, and C and D. You know what I mean? And I have to, and I can't beat myself with a stick if something doesn't happen. If it doesn't, I just go to plan B, plan C, but put in the work. Intellectually, with the elbow grease, you know what I mean? With the relationship, interpersonal relationships. And then on top of all that, you need to have mentors. You need to know who you want to be like. For me, that's what did it. I mean, all the stuff that I'm talking about, everybody knows. But not everybody. But for me, this is what worked. And then having mentors, seeking them. Sometimes you're going to have people that are not going to be at a good mental space to be able to really push you forward. But you have to surround yourself around the people that you want to be like. Look at Brianna. She connected with the person she was dealing with before in the past, and then it happened, and then there's a connection. There's rapport. That's the one thing. That's why I'm where I'm at now.
Thank you. I'm hearing a lot from all of you, kind of this echoed theme of networking and working hard and finding as many opportunities as possible. And to be honest, this is part of why we developed the series, because I think there is that sort of fear of not being able to put food on the table out of the arts for our students. And so we're trying to combat that, to show that with the right work, the right effort, the right experience, you can get there and you can get to a comfortable spot and a successful spot, which actually serves as a wonderful sort of segue to our next question. And this next question might be a little bit of a harder one, but I think it's also an important one. So Bree, we'll start with you. Was there ever a time when someone close to you, such as a family member, a friend, an instructor, or a mentor, doubted your major or career choice? And how did you handle that feedback?
So I'm very lucky in that I have a great support system, and no one has ever expressed any doubt in me. That is, I have one of my mentors here in the Zoom call right now. And so shout out to Asa Mittman. Yes, there he is. Nice. For just refining everything I've ever done. My parents didn't care what I did as long as I went to college. That was the only criteria. Go do the thing, you're paying for it, figure it out. I think the biggest thing to combat was really my own doubts. It's the arts. You have to, face that, how is this going to function side of it? And if it's something you really want to do and it's priority, then you've got to just address that. There's always going to be someone else in the field that's better, more prepared, been in it longer, whatever it is, and sort of just saying, okay, but that doesn't mean I can't do it. I think that's my weird roundabout answer to that.
I love that. And I did hear that echoed from you almost in one of your earlier answers of saying that you were sort of like really focused on this practicality. So even if that questioning didn't come from outside, even if it came from yourself, it sounds like you found a really constructive way to sort of work through it. Lacey, can we ask you the same question? Did you ever experience any negative or doubtful feedback from anyone in life?
Absolutely, I did. I have a very vivid memory of the summer in between junior and senior year of high school. I was riding back in the car with my dad from somewhere, and he just flat out said, "I will never fully support you as an actor." And being like, I'd been in the arts since I was 5 years old. It was his mother, my grandmother, that introduced me to theater. And it took me a long time to really realize, like, he's not doing this because he doesn't believe me. He's doing this because he grew up in a very traditional family where they all supported the arts. Like, my grandparents went to the opera regularly. They went to all kinds of theater and art exhibits, but arts were for your free time. You have a career, you have a family, then you do arts in your free time. Or after you retire, or you get a rich husband, like, it doesn't matter, just it's not a career. And I'm the first person in my family to try and pursue anything in the arts. And how I kind of navigated that with my dad was when I went to Chico State, I originally started as a double major in musical theater and marketing because both my parents are entrepreneurs. And I'm like, listen, I'm going for theater, but I'm also going for business. And to be clear, business is something that does really interest me. So that's not like I was just making something up to try and get my parents' support. But both my parents are entrepreneurs. I grew up with business, so I was interested in marketing. But at the end of the day, theater was my truer passion, which is why I dropped the marketing down to a minor. And there's still a lot of self-doubt. I definitely notice, especially with my family members, like, if I have a job, they're so happy, they're so proud, they're so supportive. But the second that job is over, it's like, great, so when are you gonna get a normal job now? Then I get another acting job and they're like, I'm so proud of you, congratulations. And it's kind of a roller coaster. So I kind of have to constantly check in with myself and be like, is there anything else that I woke up in the morning and be happy doing? No, then I'm going to keep acting. And if that answer ever changes, maybe I'll consider leaving this field. But as long as I am happy doing what I'm doing when I wake up, I can get my support from other places.
I'm so glad to hear that you wake up and have that self-assuredness in your choice every day. And I'd like to ask, do you have a mentor in the field or somebody else that you get some reassurance from, or do you feel like that's solely an internal source?
I feel like it's a little more internal. I feel like a lot of my acting mentors have come and gone because this field is so, everyone has their own opinion, everyone's different, everyone's path is so very, very different that sometimes I just kind of only want to rely on myself because I've had acting teachers literally look at me and say, I see no depth. Then I have other people that are like, wow, you're so talented, or like this is so good. So I'm like, I kind of need to like look more within and with friendships for support, and then take little lessons of mentorship when I can. But there's no one person that's kind of been a guide for me.
I think that's very good that you're able to get what you can from each relationship and put it together to benefit you without having to rely on somebody else to get you through hard times.
Yeah.
All right, Yvonne, we're going to go ahead and turn the question to you. Can you talk to us a little bit about any experiences you might have had with kind of doubt about your field?
Sure. So just to refresh, I did music industry and recording arts. So originally I did music industry. I wanted to, go to LA, be a big time, right? Do it big time, whatever. It's just the only thing that I liked. Anyway, music industry. But I decided to do recording arts because I started becoming a songwriter while at college. I started writing a lot and just creating music. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna tack on another major, another option in recording. I went along, I did good, whatever, this and that. About the fourth year, I did about 5 years. The fourth year, when I got into recording class, the actual, with Keith Seppinen, Joe Alexander, we were doing some of the final like recording classes. One day they just walked in and just dropped it on us. They're like, "Hey, just so you know, this field is not guaranteed. Just so you know." You know what I mean? You're gonna go into a corporate model. You're gonna do the internships. They're gonna want to take advantage of you in a lot of different ways. But we're gonna give it to you 100. This is recording. We're gonna teach you recording, but at the same time, they were like, it would not be my duty if I didn't teach you how to start your own business. So I got the doubt was from my advisors. My two advisors, recording arts advisors, straight up just told me, they were like, this is not guaranteed. So I would suggest you start picking up a side hustle, being a teacher, start working on video on it, to have doing video, you know what I mean? Get another major, get a minor. So I did, got a minor in Spanish. Spanish is my native tongue already. I was like, but I have to do it legit, you know what I mean? Here, just to have everything, correct. I'm moving to Los Angeles, like people from all over Latin America there. I needed to compete, I'm Mexican American, I'm Chicano. Like, yeah, that's cool, but I can't just be speaking street Spanish, So I made it a plan to do that, but the doubt came initially from my two advisors right before I graduate. But they were like, start your own business, because at the end of the day, you can start your own business. And that was the first doubt. So I did that. Later on, I'll let you know when I actually did that. But I learned how to do it, permits, sole proprietorship, LLC, corporation, blah, 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 this and that, permits. I got it. Yeah, I had it in my head. So I moved to LA. I moved to LA and I did an internship at Sony BMG, a big record label. And so I'm there, I'm doing my thing, and then about a month before I'm done with my internship, I loved it. I was like right in the middle of everything. I was like, it was nice. Right in the middle of everything, my boss, he brings me in and he's pissed. Not at me, but he's like, let me talk to you about something, man. And this is 2008, okay? This is big recession. It was crazy. Gas was $5 a gallon. I lived with my sister in San Pedro, Long Beach, and I would go to Santa Monica and back, and that was $10 or like literally every day or more, like. And anyway, he sat me down and he said, and he was talking about record label, because that's the stuff that I liked, because I was a part of the record label management there, and I excelled in event and planning. I worked for Chico State, and I booked a bunch of people. I had a budget of $15,000, $20,000, and I booked like 4 or 5 concerts a year. So it was like I was calling, booking agents in Los Angeles, New York, different places, and I was really good negotiator. I was good on the phone. So I think I was gonna either go into like a booking agency, right, a talent agency as an agent, which I had friends that were already doing it, so I was like gonna go to that corporate model. I was cool, I lived in Santa Monica, I lived all over the place. I was gonna go corporate. But when I took that internship, even though I had already got a lot of experience, my boss told me, he said, bro, every year I have to fight for my job. It is not nice throwing other people under the bus just so that I have an $80,000 a year job or $100,000 a year job. You know what I mean? Which in LA it's not that much, but maybe even more. He said, I've heard your music. I see your resume. I see your background. Don't do it, bro. Don't do it. And this is an OG guy that's been in the music industry forever, because everything started changing around that time. Not only was there a recession, some stuff was going on with the economy, but music was changing. We're still kind of like with the repercussions of files and CDs and things like that, and things were changing. So he was like, dude, just this. Basically, he said, become independent, please do it for yourself. Here you go. And so after that, I got myself a $25,000 business loan, and I started my business. I didn't know what the hell I was doing at first, but I started my business. And little by little, chipping away, long story short, that's those two people, doubted me, but it also shaped me because I went straight into like startup business. I still subcontract and I do other stuff and things like that, but those are the two people that doubted me and doubted my major choice.
I'm going to apologize in advance if you can hear barking dogs in the background. But what I'm hearing is a lot of it coming from a good place, but then instilling doubt at the same time. So people who mean well, people who want to share their experiences, but do express some doubt. But it sounds like all of these doubts that you've heard also gave you motivation, gave you tips and tricks on what to pursue and what to avoid. And that does actually, again, segue really nicely into our next question. And this is going to be our last structured question for the group before we sort of open up the conversation a bit more. But what I'd like to know is if you were talking directly to a Chico State student who's pursuing the degree that you pursued and who is looking towards the career that you are in, what advice would you give them to be as successful as possible? And Bree, we'll go ahead and start with you again.
Oh man. So the field of conservation, I was told immediately, I'm going to have to save up all of my money because I'm not going to get paid until I've been through grad school. And when I spoke with other people in the field and I applied to this job, I said, well, what have you been paid for a job? In the past, as a technician intern, they're like, oh, I was paid once. And that was that was an incredibly disheartening thing. So I would say, if it's something you want to do, stick with it, because, there's always going to be the more qualified person in this field. There were plenty of qualified people that applied for my job, and I'm still not totally sure how I got it. I would love to say that it's all the work that I did, and I think that helps, but I think there's an element of luck. And there's also, your personality. What you bring is so important to that interview, to that position, to the team you're going to be on. And fortunately, there are a lot more paid positions early on that you can get with bachelors now in conservation, because the field is trying to reform so that there are more opportunities. So it is more open. So you aren't struggling before going to grad school and becoming a full-fledged conservator. So this is actually a great time to go into the field. Go for it, work towards it. Take whatever information courses you can get on conservation, any sort of art material, knowing sculpture, paper, painting, all of it's useful. Project management, literally just learn as much as you can and figure out how it will cross apply. You can, work in retail and the skills you get there will be useful. Just keep going.
Thank you. Lacey, what advice, tips, or tricks would you have for a younger version of yourself or a student who is currently in a place that you were once at?
I guess my biggest piece of advice is stop talking and start doing. Being an actor is so romanticized. Just like living the Hollywood dream, or just like I'm an actor and like the Instagram license. Like, yeah, those are great, but there's a lot of work. Stop just talking about it and Instagram, whatever, Facebook, it doesn't matter, just do it. Do something, make your own work if you have to. Do as much research as you can. Don't rely on going into the classroom and only leaving with the education you got in the classroom. You should also be putting in just as much work outside doing research. There's so many things that I relied a lot on what my teachers taught me, and then I left and like, oh, I didn't learn this, that. And if I'd been doing my own research, I would have been able to ask my teachers about that and learned more in the classroom and like expanded my own education. And a lot of people message me and they're like, how did you find your job? I'm like, because I was doing my own research. I was job hunting every day for auditions. It's taking care a lot of your mental and physical health, because being an actor is so physical. Like, you need to be in tip-top shape so when you book a job, you don't have to leave the job or half-ass the job. you can do the job how you want to do it. Like it's so much of being your own advocate. That's why I think my marketing minor was super helpful, is it taught me a lot of marketing myself as well, and being my own business manager, which is why I feel very proactive in the job I've been done. And like I said, stop sitting there and just like, yeah, I'm an actor. I'm an actor. No, you have to put in the work to be an actor. It's not just studying scripts. It's also being your own manager and your own agent and your own doctor, and like making sure that you are in top physical shape, making sure that your brain is in good shape. Like it's so much more than just Instagram actor. And I think that's like the biggest step, is to just stop talking about what you are and start doing stuff.
Thank you very much. All right, Yvonne, what is your advice, tips, or tricks for students?
So the first one, obviously, education. Take advantage of the university, college, wherever you're at, and throw some toppings on there. Don't let it be just vanilla. Don't do that, because especially if you go to the big city, I mean, any big city, you have to learn that. There's another education with that. But I would say first one, education, plain and simple. Theory, and then obviously, I would also say, put yourself out there with experience. Don't just look at the instructions. Like, put it together. You know what I mean? Kind of similar to what Lacey was saying. Just do it. Do your own research, obviously. Mentors. Start thinking. Start talking and asking and probing the field, because it fields change all the time. And if you take any business course, they're going to tell you, markets change. You have to be on top of it. Look what's going on right now. The market's changing. Okay, technology. You never stop learning, all the time. Mental health. Lacey hit it right on the money. When I was in college, people, and I say this, I've done other webinars, I've done other seminars at different colleges, and I tell younger folks, like, hey, don't underestimate relationships too. Like, love relationships. Understand what that's all about, because you could be in the big city, away from family, being very lonely. So you have to understand that you're not at 100%. If your mental health is not at 100%, you're not gonna be excelling as much as you should. So I'm talking about people are not gonna give you a class on mental health and making, like, telling you that heartbreak is gonna do something like that to you, or the death of your father is gonna do this to you, or whatever happened, something physical. So don't I would say don't underestimate a life. Don't underestimate life, because I've been up and down. I haven't always been up and up and up and up. Being happy. The mental health is a big deal. So I would say that experience. I mean, education. Obviously, get your toppings. Learn and get a minor. Get a side hustle. So get education, get your theory, but have a side hustle. Especially me, being specific, straight to the topic. I was recording arts. That's a very sought after field. So I would say get different things. Like, for instance, I stumbled upon teaching. If it wasn't for that, if it wasn't because I was such a crazy dude, like learning guitar, and I'm learning bass, and I'm learning drum set, I'm learning Afro-Cuban percussion, and I'm learning, this and that, and singing, and I'm with the gospel choir, and I'm with this and the jazz band, and blah, blah, blah. Now, I'm like, yeah, I'll teach you congas. Sure. Here it is. And that I stumbled upon something artistic, right? Something that was geeky, something that made me happy, and I was able to bring it back because I threw in toppings. It wasn't a plain, it wasn't a plain vanilla, ice cream. There was a lot of toppings. So That's what helped. That's a younger me. Get your theory, get your experience. You know what I mean? Get some mentors so you probe the field, and don't underestimate mental health. Take care of your mental health. In a nutshell.
I love that. That is so much of what I tell students really regularly, that a degree is only a small piece of your professional pie. The rest is experience and what makes you unique from other people, but all within balance and reason, that you can maintain who you are, and you can maintain your well-being while you're pursuing all of those things. I love that response. Okay, that is the conclusion of our structured questions. I did open up the chat, and the audience can feel free if they have any questions, or if you'd like to unmute yourself and ask or comment on anything, please feel free at this time.
I'm going to unmute. I just want to say thank you to all of you for coming and talking about your careers and your experiences. And I really just love that. I'm seeing a theme that's running through this session as well as our first one, right? And one of the things that came out was that people really just need to be open to different kinds of experiences and opportunities, be willing to say yes. But I have to say that I think my favorite theme out of this one, well, I have a couple actually, take care of your mental health. I heard that from you all, but also take care of yourself. I heard Lacey and Johnny and Brianna both talking about, right, the importance of staying physically fit, and just making sure that you attend to yourself. And so I really appreciate what you brought to bear today in your discussion. And I think our students will gain a lot from your conversation, because I really want for people to be like you and to be open to the possibilities and to say yes to opportunities. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's the thing. Sometimes opportunities are thrown your way, and then sometimes you have to make your own opportunities, but you have to be willing to take both options, whether one's a little more work, and sometimes you're lucky enough to have something thrown your way, but still got to be open to anything. Say yes to what you can.
Sometimes the opportunity is in Texas, which is where you thought you'd end up.
Sometimes, yeah, it'll take you to a foreign country when you've never left America before. So
that's so true. And I appreciate the bravery that you all showed in pursuing those opportunities, despite the different locations that it took you to.
Mm-hmm.
I have one more question, Kylie, can I ask?
Yes, absolutely.
So Lacey, we're a little curious over here. So what character did you play at Disney?
I portrayed Marilyn Monroe at Universal Studios Japan.
Oh, okay. See,
yeah.
I wasn't even close. I was thinking it was Belle.
Yes, I have. Well, it's interesting because I almost skipped my audition for Universal because I had auditioned for Disney at least 10 times and been told no. So I was like, oh, I don't want to drive 45 minutes to Hollywood, just be told no again. But at the end of the day, I'm like, I think that's one of the reasons why this was so successful is instead of trying the same thing over and over again, I tried something different instead of just pushing the same button I'd been pushing. I went over there and tried something else. And it's a very interesting role to be playing in Japan because some people know who Marilyn is and some people don't. They're just like, oh, really pretty white blonde lady. And either way, your job is still the same, to create the same experience of being a Hollywood starlet. And oh my gosh, I'm out shopping for the day and oh, darling, how are you doing today? Like bringing them into the world and like getting them to feel like they're in Hollywood. And I don't know, it's the time of my life. It was amazing. See?
And I don't know, Johnny, I heard Joe Alexander all through you, right? Especially the side hustle, right? You got to get a side hustle. You got to learn to write. You got to have passive income.
I feel like is get yourself a side hustle. Don't be like them people that go into these interviews and they don't know what they're doing.
Yes, well, definitely. And Brianna, it's nice to actually see you because Asa has shared pictures of you at work, conserving pictures and things of that nature. So it's nice to finally meet you as well. So
You as well.
yeah.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. That concludes the second panel of our series. We are going to be taking next week off so our students can enjoy their spring break. But the following Wednesday, we invite all students, staff, and faculty to join us for our job and internship search strategy workshop with Bettina. Have a wonderful Wednesday, everyone.